Hey all, Gisha here, and I wanted to share with you one of my favorite commanders that I've been playing lately, and that is Gig's Yawgmoth Praetor. So this is a 3-mana, 3/3 mono black commander, and the really cool thing about this is that whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life, and if they do, they draw a card. So a large part of the deck revolves around that ability. What I enjoy about a lot of my commander decks is that they utilize a lot of cards that otherwise would not see any play or would be deemed bad. And that's why I really enjoy this deck, is because we are playing a lot of evasive, low drop type of cards. But additionally, Gig's also allows you to pay 4 colorless and 3 black, then discard X cards to exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, and you may play lands and cast spells from among those without paying their mana cost. Because you're drawing so many cards with the first ability, this second ability does not become such a high expense that you're never able to do it. And so another part of the deck also revolves around that. So let's jump into the deck and I'll show you some of my favorite cards that are part of it. So first up, we have all of our evasive flyers. Right, we have our 1-drop 1/1s that just want to get in no matter the cost. Being a low drop and evasive, this means that each one of these cards represents an additional card you're drawing during your turns if they're able to get through. And the cool thing is that Gig's doesn't really care if you're hitting the same opponent or multiple opponents. You just really want to connect with as many creatures as possible. And so a lot of these flyers also do something additional, like looting with eye twitch, draining life or discarding, or even milling, which can be useful in this deck as well. And we also have some other cards that want you to get through, like Ophiomancer, creating a Death Toucher that's harder to block. We have our Menace Cat there, another Death Toucher and Lifelink, more Menace bodies. We have some like Nether Trader, which have the added capacity to keep coming back just by playing lands and whatnot, or just by paying 1 mana and bringing it back, and Shadow makes it unblockable, or pretty close to unblockable, right? We have Changeling Outcast. Some of the newest cards that we have, like Tiny Bones, also have a really cool added ability to play stuff over your opponent's graveyards. We have Ashnods, more Death Touchers. We have Skulk as an evasive, more flyers. Tormented Soul is one that's kind of classic, a little old school, but still gets the job done. We have more flyers. We have something like Vault Scourge, which the added benefit of lifelink really comes in handy because you're paying life to draw all these cards. And so you want to make sure that you're watching your life total very closely in this deck, right? Something like Gingerbread, yeah, you can get through, but you can also pop it for life if you're in a pinch. So that's always a good thing. And also with the Frog here, you're able to pop it from the graveyard to get an additional card. And my favorite card out of all these is Bitter Blossom, right? Creating new evasive 1/1 flyers every turn, making sure you get the max out of Gig's first ability. Let's talk about the mana. And you want to make sure that you keep enough mana in your pool to make sure that you don't just end up with a bunch of cards in hand that you cannot play. That's kind of the worst feel. And so one of my favorite quote-unquote hidden deck techs is using Dowsing Dagger. And yeah, you give somebody a couple of plants, but because you have so many evasive bodies, you can quickly turn this into a land that taps for 3 mana, which is very, very good value. You're running Jet Medallion, of course, all your spells are black. Soul Ring. I like Heraldic Banner because it makes all those evasive guys a little stronger. I guess, 100% more powerful, just being able to get in with the 2/1 every turn, or multiple 2/1s every turn. It adds up very quickly. Mind Stone to be able to draw a card if you need to in a pinch. Thought Vessel is kind of a need because you're drawing so many cards that you won't have the ability to play them all in that same turn. And a lot of our commander revolves around gigs, right? A lot of our deck does. And so I'm running obviously both sets of boots and making sure that we can protect him and keep him around. And also, one of my favorites here is Crypt Ghast. Just extra value in addition to some life drain that is very valuable for this deck, like I mentioned before. Sometimes you're just not able to keep your commander around, but you still need ways to draw cards. You might still have a bunch of evasive guys. And so one of the really cool cards that I like to run in this deck is Praetor's Hour. And so this, you can make sure that at instant speed, you're able to draw a lot of your opponent's cards, and being able to cast them in a pinch can help you kind of get back into the game or get ahead if not. We're also running Morbid Opportunist, just a classic black card, especially with all the little guys that you may use to jump block or sacrifice for certain abilities. Really useful here. Black Market Connections. Again, card draw, ramp, and even bodies. This is kind of a full package of just goodness for the deck. Carrion's Journal is also really good. It's harder to flip just because you're holding a lot of cards in your hand, but you can always pop your little dudes to draw cards, and that is a lot of value because sometimes you just need a sacrifice outlet. One of my favorites here is the Archive. And so it makes it so any life gain that you have is very powerful, and it doubles it up. And same with all your card draw. So this, as soon as you play this, you want to play it and just attack and make sure that you get the value right away. This can fill up your hand and draw you a third of your deck, in a good given turn. We're always obviously running Skull Clamp. It's easy to pop all those little 1/1s. One of the ones I like to run is Smuggler's Copter. I know the old school modern all-star may seem like an odd addition here, but it serves two purposes, right? It's card draw, it's discard, and it's also an evasive flyer. So really just it pays off to run him, I think, especially because not a lot of our guys have haste, and so you can just run the artifact first, and then any one drop that you drop you just use to crew the copter and get value right away. And last but not least, we're running Bolas' Citadel. Just insane amount of value, especially the last ability. It's easy to get multiple permanents at the same time, and being able to take out players just by sacrificing all your 1/1s and quickly building back up. It's really a big bomb and a lot of value in this deck. So we're drawing dozens of cards throughout this game, but every single card we draw with Gix's ability, we're paying life for. And so I like to run a set of life drain set of cards, if you will. And that pile starts with this Consumption card. It really is a cool card because it just takes the slot of a lane, but when you need it, you can just drain everybody for 4 and gain 4 life kind of out of nowhere. Additionally, we are running Bontu's Monument. So, of course, reducing the cost of your creatures is always good. But the majority of our creatures are small. This really is in the deck because of that life drain aspect. But making our commander cheaper is never a bad thing. We have to run Gary, right? A lot of our 1-drops have that black mana in their CMC, and so this is just an all-star and it wins games on its own. Nothing new, but really cool card. I like to run Twilight Prophet to draw and gain life every turn. This kind of serves a double purpose there. Ayara, also very good card, similar to Bontu's Monument. Is gonna drain cards, but it's also gonna allow us to sacrifice creatures and draw cards as well. I also like to run Dread Presence, which is removal, is card draw, and it's life gain as well. So it's a little bit of a toolbox card, but it gives me more flexibility when I'm in the middle of a game, deciding what I need to do. We like to run also Kakusho here. Again, it gains so much life out of nowhere, especially if you're able to sacrifice it as needed with something like Ayara, for example. A cool card that we like to run here is Revenge of Raven. This is just to deter players from attacking us, right? Gix does that on its own. Just, hey, if you attack my opponent, you can pay 1 life and draw a card. This kind of reinforces that and helps later in the game when there's less players, right? The best card, of course, here has to be Shieldred. Shieldred will make it so every card we draw with Gix is just a net 1 life, and it really punishes our opponents for drawing cards. But additionally to that, some of these cards that I have are just straight up drain, not necessarily with life gain attached. Something like Obnixilis is removal, but also pings our opponents when they draw. We run Fate Unraveler, again, just straight up pinging. I like to run Underworld Dreams, making sure that every draw hurts, and something like Throne of the God Pharaoh makes it so all of our 1/1s represent additional damage at the end of each turn. So that's a card that can deal a lot of damage the turn it comes in. And last but not least, we run Psychosis Crawler, make sure that it drains our opponents and it's just a solid big body. We are in mono black, so we have to make sure that we're able to just straight up kill things, right? So I run a nice little combination of removal cards, and I like removal cards that deal with certain different aspects of the game. So for example, right, Bitter Triumph lets me discard a card if I need to. It's a discard outlet to get rid of a creature or planeswalker at instant speed. Very, very cool card that we got this year. Feed the Swarm allows me to also get rid of an enchantment, which is not something that is easy for mono black to do. We run the File, that is just a very cheap interaction spell that gets around things like Indestructible, so I enjoy putting that in my deck. And Deadly Rollick, again, a free spell to straight up exile a creature if Gix is out, is kind of invaluable in this deck. One lesser known card that I like to run is Hagra's Mauling. Again, taking the slot of just a basic land. If I need to, I can also just use it to destroy the creature, and it becomes cheaper if certain things happen, but that's not really why it's there. It's just because it's a land, basically. It's a land that can kill something. We're also running some bodies that have to do with removal. So Grim Hireling lets you ramp up and create treasures by attacking with your evasive dudes all your opponents, and it can also kill things if needed by sacrificing those treasures. We have Rankle, again, another evasive body, but this one with a little bit of a toolbox set of abilities to let me draw, discard, or sacrifice for everybody. And last but not least, we run the other Shieldred, which is a really decent, each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and it has a slew of abilities in the back that make it just a bomb in the deck. But sometimes you just need to go a little further than just kill one creature. I like to run Bonus Hunger. It's very, very good because the send is easy for this deck to achieve and just gets rid of half of everybody's board. I run Archfiend of Ifnir. So whenever you discard a card or cycle it, you can put a -1/-1 counter on each of your opponent's creatures. So activating the second ability of Gix will pretty much board wipe the table, and even just going to the end step and discarding to hand size can do that, as well as some of the looters or cyclers that are in the deck. This is a really cool kind of hidden card that not a lot of people see it coming, right? Because they expect, oh, you'll have to pay, the 7 mana for Gix's second ability. Not necessarily, right? I also run Toxic Deluge to help me get rid of the entire board if I need to in a pinch. And last but not least, I run the disc, and mainly because it helps me deal with artifacts, which black doesn't really have a good way to do it. But with the disc, I'm able to just get rid of all creatures, artifacts, and enchantments in one fell swoop. But after I do all of that, right, after I get rid of everything, I also run, and this is kind of a side note, I also run Rise of the Dark Realms. This is kind of one of my win conditions, and it's very, very cool to be able to bring back all your little 1/1s or whatnots, with the additional value of all of your opponent's things that you just killed. As for lands, we're running 20 swamps. I like the Kaladesh one, so I'm using those, but I'm also running some utility lands, right? Running Reliquary Tower, because I know I end up with more than 7 cards in my hand at the end of some turns. I'm running Poetry Bog to deal with some of my opponent's graveyards when I need it. There's a couple of lands that I run just to help me do a little bit of better card draw and card selection, like Sulfurian Void or Cryptic Caves. I run a couple of creature lands, and so these can also get through and draw me cards if I need to. And there's a few cards that help my creatures get through, like Axis Tunnel and Shiso over there. I don't end up using these a lot. It's mostly so when I'm in a pinch I have the option to. And there's a couple of lands that help me get things back from the graveyard, such as Buried Ruin, right? To be able to get something like Bolas' Citadel back is very useful. Witch's Cottage and Memorial to Folly for creatures as well. And kind of the powerhouse of the mana base here has to do with Cabal Stronghold, Cabal Coffers, and Nykthos. And yes, I'm missing an Urborg. I don't necessarily enjoy fixing my opponent's mana, but it's probably something that I should upgrade this deck to eventually. But just as is, this deck is very, very powerful, very, very fast. If you like drawing a lot of cards, doing some politics, a little bit of a group hug theme as well, right? Because you're allowing your opponents to get cards. So this deck has been a lot of fun to play over the last couple of years. And yeah, it's not being taken apart anytime soon. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this. I can do a lot more decks like this. I have probably over 30 decks that I really just keep in my collection and whip out whenever I want to game. So thanks everyone, stay subscribed, and I will catch you on the next one.